Hey, Daily Dosers, Chris here. Happy Monday to you. Did you have a great, restful, peaceful weekend? Yeah, me neither. I had a great weekend, but it wasn't restful and it wasn't that peaceful. It's just going, going, going. And because that's the pace that most of us seem to live, our weekends are busy and it goes right into another busy week, which tends to lead to another busy weekend, which tends to flow into another busy week. We're going to take a week and talk about our need for rest and what the Bible calls Sabbath. Now, this is going to be a tough one because I'm talking to myself. I hope you join in. This is one of those, I will let you know on day one, I have not mastered. I've had to put disciplines in my life starting this month where I go to bed 2 hours earlier, I go to bed with a book, I go to bed reading something spiritual, I go to bed hoping to fall asleep because my mind races at night. I try to go to bed between 1 and 2:30 in the morning. I know it's a bad habit. I'm trying to back that up and start over. And let me tell you one of the passages that just is encouraging me on my new endeavor, maybe your endeavor on better rest, better sleep, better Sabbath. It comes from 1 Kings chapter 17, 18, 19. I know, 3 chapters, and that's the problem. For a storyteller, this is one of the most amazing stories in the Bible. This is a story about a guy named Elijah who went to a wicked king named Ahab, king of Israel, and said, because you guys are all disobedient, God says no more rain. Whoa! Faucet is turned tight. For 3 years, no rain. An entire agrarian society goes into a 3-year drought. That may be something we want to discuss at a later date. God says, look, you're not following me. I will be against your success and prosperity. The reason why you will not be successful and prosperous in life is because you're not walking with me. And that happens for 3 years. Finally, they find Elijah. Finally, there's going to be this big showdown. Whose God is really behind this? They're serving this god called Baal and Asherah. They're serving these satanic idols at this time. And they get 450 prophets of Baal up on Mount Carmel, and they go against Elijah. Whoever God can bring down fire on an altar, that's the God we serve. Well, the end result, I know it's a long story. You got to read it. 1 Kings 17, 18, 19. God shows up, brings fire down on the altar. Everyone follows Elijah's God back to following Yahweh. They killed all the satanic priests, and then it starts to rain. And Elijah runs down the mountain. 17 miles he runs. Now it's downhill, but he still runs 17 miles. And then he finds out word has gotten to the queen. She's the one that's employed all these satanic priests. And she says that I'm going to kill the prophets. And after this amazing showdown, amazing mountaintop experience, after performing all day in front of the nation, after running 17 miles, this is the end of the story. Now Elijah was afraid and ran for his life. And when he came to Beersheba in Judah, he left his servants there while he himself went a day's journey into the desert. Now he came to a broom tree, sat down under it, and prayed that he might die. I have had enough, Lord, he said. Take my life. I am no better than my ancestors. Then he lay down under the tree and he fell asleep. Incredible depression. After all this work, after all this success, after all this showdown, he starts listening to his critics. He has stinking thinking. He's tired. He goes in this incredible depression and he tries to commit Jewish suicide. You see, a great Hebrew, Jewish person understands God's the only creator of life, therefore God's the only one that can take life. But he walks a day's journey out into the wilderness, into the desert, and he lays down, he exposes himself to the element, and he tells God to take his life. I'm done. Watch what God does. All at once an angel touched him and said, get up and eat. And he looked around, and there by his head was a cake of baked bread over hot coals and a jar of water. It's where we get the term angel food cake. And he ate and drank, and then he lay down. And the angel Lord came back a second time and touched him and said, get up and eat and drink, for the journey is too much for you. So he got up and ate and drank and was strengthened by that food. There's a rest of the story of now what God can talk to him about, now what God can teach him and get him back in the game. But I love, in the midst of great action on the mountaintop, great usefulness to come, there's this little part of the story that says, Elijah, unless you are sleeping well, I can't use you. Did you catch that? He lays down depressed, is about to die, and God doesn't show up and say, let me give you 12 steps to get your mind back. Let me give you 12 things of positive thinking. Let me give you 10 reasons why that God's still involved in your life. God wakes him up and says, eat and take another nap. Until you rest fully, I can't use you emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Your lack of sleep is taking a toll on your usefulness to God. Now, the Bible says a lot about sleeping too much and just laying around. That's called a sluggard. But the Bible also says if we're not sleeping well, that's really poor stewardship. And God says, here's what you need to do. You need to sleep better, and then you need to take a nap. Sometimes, church, the most spiritual thing you could ever do is take a nap. This week, we're going to teach you about rest and a Sabbath and taking better naps.